Hi guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Val and welcome to day 11 of our 20 days of Psalms. And in today's Psalms, we see David's faithless friends try to advise him while he was running away from King Saul. But then David decided to look up to God and to lift his eyes unto God when he was trying to go through this season of testing. And he knew that God was his only way out of this season of distress that he was in. And so yeah, let's get into it. David begins by first saying that in the Lord I put my trust in, and how can you say to my soul, flee to the mountains like a bird? It seemed like David knew that the safest place he could stand was where he was trusting God, and the advice that these friends were giving him was an advice that was full of fear. But then he decided to lift his eyes unto the Lord, and he knew that God would actually carry him throughout this season of his turmoil, this season where he was going through a distress, and in this case where he was running away from King Saul. In verse 2 and 3, we see the friends of David tried to manipulate him with fear, because they even asked him, if the foundations are destroyed, what can the righteous do? And I think we also need to be very careful with the advice we give people when they are going through tough seasons, where they're in their turmoils, where they're in their seasons of testing or whatever, because in this case David's friends didn't know what they were doing, but they were actually instilling fear in David. We need to filter, is this really an advice of fear, or is this really spirit-led? And vice versa, the advice we take from people as well when we're in those seasons, we need to be careful and lift. And in this case, David was telling us he knew his God, and he always lifted his eyes on God. And he got to a point where he realized that these friends of his were actually instilling fear in him, and he had to look up to God and be like, God, but let me, I trust you, and these people are not telling me nothing. And I think for me, my biggest take was the question, if the foundations are destroyed, what can the righteous do? I believe the righteous in this case are being advised that if the foundations are destroyed, we can always trust in God. We can always be confident that God is a deliverer, that God is a safe place that we actually need. And in this case, David was quite confident in who God was, because he had had a history with God, and he was quite confident that even these friends of his were not even worth what God was saying about him. And just to encourage somebody, when I was reading this chapter, there's this revelation I had that what God says about you is so much so not a point of democracy that nobody, even yourself, is allowed to even vote in. Like, when what God says about you is not even a point of view to vote in. And unfortunately, some people will feel like they will feel the need to vote in what God says about you. They will feel like they have to tell you what to do, what God says about you. But I want to use this example, but I feel like it's not really appropriate. Like, I don't know. In an instance where a good example is when a woman is pregnant. I've never been pregnant, so according to what I have heard, when a woman is pregnant, for the first couple of months, she's the only one who knows what is in her. She's the only one who knows what is bothering her. She's the only one who knows her struggles in the morning. She's the only one who knows what she's going through. But eventually, what she's carrying starts showing off. Eventually, she gives birth to what she was carrying. And along the way, you can find that in the beginning months, people would always ask her, what is wrong with you? Why are you like this? And eventually the same people who are trying to discourage this woman who's pregnant are still the same people who will tell her that she has a beautiful child. My point is, keep going. People will discourage you. People will instill fear in you. But in this case, David looked unto God. My prayer is that you may focus on God. Focus on God. And unfortunately, people will tell you all sorts of things. We saw, and a good example was David's friends trying to manipulate him with fear. I pray that you may be discerning of who's really sent of God and who's actually instilling fear in you. And yeah, that's all I had for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. See you tomorrow.